a football game, and as far as answering the bell, when has Tennessee ever answered the bell better than that? I would say not in many, many, many years. There was some volatility atop the college football polls that affected the Tennessee Alabama game, but it is still, as we reported last week, if both teams held serve, would be the highest rated, highest ranked matchup between Tennessee, Alabama in the game's history. That's insane. 1902, I believe. The Vols are ranked number 6 in the AP poll, which is 2 spots higher than UT was ranked last week before the 40-13 win over LSU. Alabama drops to 3 in the AP poll, which is what we defer to. But whether you go coaches or AP, they both add together where the average ranking is 4.5. So the highest that this matchup has ever been in the history of the series is 5. So that is just I had my son check that. I had my wife check that. I had Caleb Calhoun check that. It blows me away, the significance of it. Couple of notes that you can check out on offthehooksports.com. If you tuned out over the weekend after the game, Byron Young saying it was the best game that he believes that Tennessee's played under Josh Heupel. Tennessee's game plan was pretty simple. They wanted to run out there and find out what LSU would play. And receiver Jalen Hyatt, love this guy. He said, quote, we wanted to see if they were going to drop 8 or they're going to come out there and and say their guys are better than our guys. And he said in the receiver room, we take that as disrespectful in this offense. And that's what they did. And they didn't throw for 500 yards like they've done before, but they were very balanced and efficient and still explosive in the passing game. So 239 efficient yards passing. Jalen Hyatt, 4 passes for 63 yards. And Tennessee got an absolute ton of praise for its offense. The Vols, though, I think an interesting stat. Tennessee is 11th in the SEC in total defense. That's not good. 396 yards allowed per game. They're 5th in the SEC with 18 points allowed per game. So what does that tell you? That tells you that bend don't break thing that we used to all hate is just a part of college football now. You're going to give up yards. So in the red zone, the Vols are second best, in the SEC and 7th best in the nation. That's really good. If that doesn't change, Tennessee is going to definitely win 9 games and might win 10. Hendon Hooker's Heisman campaign, it's getting close to time for Amanda and I to book a trip to New York City. New York City. His odds, though, dropped 40 a bit from 1,400, which is 14 to 1, to 1,600. The reason is CJ Stroud's running away with this thing, has a 60% chance of winning the Heisman. But Hooker pulled even with Alabama quarterback Bryce Young after Young did not play against A&M. Southern California quarterback Caleb Williams' odds dropped because of Stroud's went up. So I don't know that Hendon Hooker helped his chances, or the college football weekend, Amanda, helped his chances to win the Heisman. But I think it certainly helped his chances to be invited into New York, which is something in and of itself.
It helped his chances to win the Heisman, and I do not agree with some of these odds makers and all of that stuff, because you, in my Heisman board or whatever, I'm sorry, but Bryce Young's out. He's out. He's missed a game and a half, and that's enough. He's out. I don't know why he would be equal to Hendon Hooker. He hasn't done what Hendon Hooker has done, and he's on a team with more talent than Hendon Hooker is. He's out. He's missed a game and a half. He may miss the Tennessee game, which would be devastating to everyone who's an Alabama fan, because, my God, we'll get into that later. But looking at who Ohio State has coming up, you have Iowa, and I know Iowa's not that good, but their defense is still good. Their defense is still really good. Their offense can't do anything, but their defense can. Then they have a top 10 matchup with Penn State. Then they have, Maryland, who's not a pushover. And then they have, number 5 in Michigan. So CJ Stroud has a pretty tough schedule coming up. He hasn't played much of anyone as far as defense is concerned. Who have you played? Wisconsin? Wisconsin's terrible. Toledo, Rutgers, Michigan State, all of those teams are horrific this year.
And he
Horrific.
and he has the best group of receivers in the nation. And I think Tennessee's barely on that second tier. I think they're very close to that. But according to Chris Landry, who I've got a lot of respect for, they probably have 4 first-round picks on their receiving core. Tennessee probably has 2. I
That's Go ahead.
no, you're good.
That should go against CJ Stroud because this is always my opinion on the Heisman. The Heisman should be the best player on on their team, one that their team would not be able to survive or be completely different if he was not there. That should be your Heisman winner. The one that makes the biggest difference on a team, takes them from a 5-win season to a 10-win season, or takes them from, something that they would be pretty much not good unless he was on that team. CJ Stroud, you can replace CJ Stroud with probably the 2 people sitting behind him, and it would be the same
Probably.
concept, considering their schedule is kind of weak, except for coming up soon. He didn't play well against Notre Dame at all, and I don't know why no one looked at that, because he did not play well against Notre Dame. So I don't see why he is so far gone with it. He's not so far gone with it, and this is something that people actually vote on. So it's not like you can take the statistics and, he's automatically the winner. You have to look at what Hendon Hooker is doing at Tennessee. What he's doing is far better than what anybody else is doing in the country.
We had a question on the message board. There's some confusion about the rankings. We always defer to the AP, but we do cite the coaches poll. So the coaches didn't change. Same as last week. Alabama 1, Tennessee 8. Still comes out to a 4.5 overall ranking. And then in the AP, which good for them, they got up and did their homework. They're not the sports information director who has other things to do and just says, "Coach, is this okay?" and sends it in and doesn't make significant changes. There should be significant changes from week to week. Alabama is not without Bryce Young is not the number 1 overall team in the nation. Now, Bryce Young could come back and we're having a different conversation 2 weeks from now, but right now they're not. So in the AP, they're 3 and 6. So kudos to the AP voters for taking a look at a couple teams. Tennessee jumps USC and Oklahoma State. It doesn't hurt to be in that prime window on CBS, but good for the voters. And that's why I lean towards AP, because the vast majority of those guys get up and yeah, I've had the opportunity to vote for the AP. I'm like, no way. Because at the time I was covering recruiting, and if you do it right, it should take you 2 or 3 hours to go through every Sunday. And man, I don't know about you, but I've got enough going on a Sunday. Yeah, I belabor my Heisman vote way too much. So I'm not going to belabor an AP vote every single week. So there you go. That's kind of all it in a nutshell. Jalen McCullough, I'm sure, will be addressed at the noon press conference right at 12:15, and we'll see if he's suspended. So I will open it up to you. What do you think for today's tough question? Your thoughts on what direction? Obviously, we were going to go the LSU direction, which I would still prefer. But if you want to do something with Jalen McCullough, we can certainly do that. And Crazy says, "How about that Milrow? Boy, he was
Ooh, we'll get into that.
he
We
was
will get into that.
wow. When's the last time you've seen this? Just feeds the fodder that I've said and Amanda said. Amanda brought it up first that this is Nick Saban's last year. This, in my mind, feeds the fodder. He doesn't have a guy ready to go. When's the last time that Alabama hasn't had a backup quarterback ready to go? You would know better than I.
So Jalen Milroe is. This is a whole thing, and I am prepared for this because I was at the game. I was at Texas A&M, Alabama on Saturday. I was at that game. I have never seen such a poor display of game management from an Alabama quarterback. And I know there before, the Tua, Jalen Hurts, that era at Alabama, there Alabama was known for game managers. That's the kind of offense they ran. And of course, in college, we have gotten away from that type of offense, and rightly so, because it's, kind of boring, ground and pound. But I have never seen a quarterback so unprepared
It was
for a game.
it was bizarre. And if you listened to us last week, we had Chris Landry say that some of the clips that he got from practice to review some of them, that the quarterback was completely cut out.
Yeah.
So that's when we pretty much knew that Bryce Young wasn't going to play. Be sure and like and subscribe and share. I should have said that a long time ago. Like, subscribe, and share. We greatly appreciate that. The channel is growing by leaps and bounds. Mr. Zip saying, I'll say Alabama's secondary is trash. I don't know how no one has had any explosive plays, 15 or more yards against them. Well, it seems like that Tennessee fans have this conversation repeatedly that they're getting ready to play one of their rivals who's good, and things don't work out. But I really feel like Tennessee is beyond that. I really feel like the mindset of this team, and Tennessee might lose to Alabama. That very well could happen. But I don't think Tennessee no-shows it as they did in 2016 when it was a 9-1. That team was overly hyped and was not going to beat Alabama, was not going to show up. But I just think we're past the point that Tennessee doesn't show up. And good for you, Tennessee fans. You deserve that. I mean, you've been through a lot.